Good morning, my fellow New Yorkers. It is a joy to be back in Diversity Plaza with so many friends, former co-workers, and fellow New Yorkers as we enjoy the sounds of our city hum around us and the aromas of food that I know we all wish we could be eating right now waft down the block. Diversity Plaza is aptly named. Here, just as in so many other intersections of our beautiful city, the ever-changing tapestry that is New York is in full view. It is here that cab drivers on break buy fuchka at carts lined up next to each other, each cart claiming that they were in fact the first. It is here just behind me where so many young children run up and down the stairs of Kebab King. It is here where words are spoken in dozens of different languages echoing down the street while music from every conceivable country plays at every conceivable volume. It is actually right here that I also used to get my haircut. And if there is any place where you can hear the orchestra of an immigrant city tuning its instruments, it's Jackson Heights and it's Diversity Plaza. There are few cities on the planet that can boast a single corner like this one, let alone hundreds upon hundreds that fill our city. And it is no small thing to lead a city that contains so many worlds within one, so many cultures existing alongside each other. And it is also not something that happens on its own. It requires the work of neighbors, reaching out a hand to other neighbors, like so many of my colleagues at Chaya do every single day. It requires children introducing themselves at the playground to new friends who speak a different language. And in some moments, it requires city government stepping in to protect its people from discrimination and prejudice wherever it arises. As I often do, I think of the words of our greatest mayor, Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, when he founded the Mayor's Committee on Unity in 1944. Its purpose, he said, was to make New York City a place where people of all races and religions may work and live side by side in harmony and have mutual respect for each other, and where democracy is a living reality. That committee became the Commission on Intergroup Relations, and in 1962, the Commission on Human Rights. But for nearly 82 years, no matter its name, CCHR has done the vital work of protecting human rights in our city, of delivering justice. And that work has never been more important, and the person entrusted to lead it has never been more important either. Today, I am proud to announce that Christine Clark will serve as the new chair and commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights, where she will lead a team of New Yorkers who live in this city, love this city, and speak more than the 30 languages of the many that are spoken in this city. 30 languages, I know. I know, brother, it's a lot, but there's even more in this city. Christine has dedicated her career to fighting for New Yorkers who need a champion. Before assuming this role, she served as Legal Services New York City's Chief of Litigation and Advocacy. Before that, she was director of the Civil Rights Justice Initiative. She has dedicated her life to fighting for working people, from factory workers to small business owners to immigrants planting their roots. She will work under Julie Su, our Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice, because we know that so often the civil rights violations that New Yorkers reckon with make it harder for them to afford a city that is already impossible for many to be able to stay in. When a landlord will not rent you an apartment because of the color of your skin, that is economic injustice. When a boss withholds your wages because of the languages you speak, that is economic injustice. When you cannot get a job because of your immigration status or your sexual orientation, that too is economic injustice. We will make this city more just, and we will do so as New Yorkers, not by shying away from complexity or conflict, but by confronting what we know to be wrong wherever it arises. The beauty that is Diversity Plaza is a special, fragile thing. Together, let us resolve to protect it, to defend it, and to work together each and every day to make this a city that every single New Yorker knows belongs to them. It is now my pleasure to introduce the next chair and commissioner of the City Commission on Human Rights, Christine Clark.
Hello. Thank you so much, Mayor Mamdani, for that beautiful vision of New York City, one that I share very much. And I can't wait to get to work as your next chair of the Commission for Human Rights. I've moved around a lot in my life, but the only place that ever felt like home to me was New York City. And it was precisely because of the diversity, because of the embrace of all people, and because of the inclusion in everyone in that great label of New Yorker. As soon as you decide that this is your home, you belong here as much as anybody else. Since putting my roots down here, I spent basically my entire professional career fighting for working people and people living in poverty. Before law school, I fought for the rights of overseas factory workers making goods for export to the United States. Since law school, I dove headfirst into civil rights, representing employees who wanted to be seen as more than the sum of their parts, seen by their employers as more than their race or gender identity or religion, as well as fighting for people who were victims of wage theft. I've also spent a decade on and off working for Legal Services NYC, where I fought for people living in poverty, including working people who simply cannot get ahead. There, I fought for people to be free from discrimination in the workplace, for people to be free from discrimination in housing, and for language access for immigrants and those who are deaf or hard of hearing when working with government agencies, and finally, against unlawful or arbitrary government action that deprives people of due process of law. I've also spent some time briefly in the private sector, where I fought for employees, but also advised small businesses. And these are businesses who really wanted to do the right thing, and it's not always easy, as I'm sure all these businesses will tell you. There aren't a lot of resources for small businesses, particularly immigrant-owned businesses, who want to follow the law and want to do the right thing. I think as part of a vision of a city where civil rights violations don't happen, I promise to invest in a civil rights violation prevention and helping give small businesses the resources that they need to follow the law. I think the law should be a guidepost for us all and not a trap for the unwary. So it's with this life experience and this work experience that I come to this position, and with a deeply held belief that New York City is a place where we can finally all belong and all thrive. And it's obviously a huge privilege and an honor to have the opportunity and the great responsibility to lead the wonderful people at the Commission on Human Rights to enact this vision of a great city that we all share. Because ultimately, no matter where you were born, what language you speak, what religion you practice, whether you have a disability, your race or ethnicity, your gender identity, or your sexual orientation, if you live here, you are a New Yorker. And I promise, as the chair of the Commission on Human Rights, to work with you and to fight for you. Because the reality is that none of us can survive alone. None of us can feel safe in a city knowing that if we are suddenly perceived as inadequate, as a bad employee, as an undesirable tenant or neighbor, if that perception has nothing to do with us or anything we've done, that that perception alone could endanger our livelihoods, our housing, the security of our families. No one can live in that kind of society. No one can feel safe in a society where businesses are incentivized to cut corners by not accommodating people's disabilities or not working with employees who are caregivers or parents. That's not a society we can thrive in. That's a race to the bottom. And we can choose to live in a better society, one in which we understand that as New Yorkers, our freedom, our security, and our collective liberation is bound up in one another. We must lift each other up, support each other, and lean on each other in order so that we may all be free. So I think that that is the underlying principle of the New York City human rights law. It's a principle that I know the mayor believes in deeply, as does our Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice, Julie Su. And it's a principle that will underlie my tenure as the chair of the Commission on Human Rights. Thank you.
We'll start with some questions about the commission, please. Yeah, go ahead.
So there was an audit from the state controller recently that found that...
Would you mind saying it a little louder?
Yeah, sure. There was recently an audit from the state controller that found that tenants who file discrimination complaints with the commission regularly face years-long delays. What will this administration do differently to prevent those delays and to prevent the discrimination from happening in the first place?
Yeah, so there are unquestionably enormous delays right now at the Commission on Human Rights. There's a lot of wonderful people who work there who want to do better work faster, and I'm really looking forward to working with them to figure out ways to move things faster, move resources so they can go more efficiently. And I think as chair, it's my responsibility to get decisions out faster, which I intend to do immediately.
Yeah, go ahead, Miles.
One thing that CCHR is focused on, obviously, in the last administration was fighting anti-Semitism. Today, obviously, a group that encourages folks to make the pilgrimage back to Israel is going to be having their meeting in a synagogue. There's that same protest group is expected to protest there again. What do you think your focus will be on for Jewish New Yorkers, and then what's your reaction to another protest when, today the governor's talking about protecting house worship?
I'm excited to be standing here alongside our chair and our new commissioner of CCHR, precisely because this city deserves a leader who will look to ensure that the law is being followed. And that is a law that has to be followed for each and every person. That includes Jewish New Yorkers. Jewish New Yorkers deserve just as much as every other New Yorker to be safe in this city, and to also know that that safety cannot be the limit of what this city does. It must also celebrate and cherish. And again, it cannot come down to an individual commissioner's deliberation of what they agree or disagree with. It has to come down to the question of, does this violate the law? And just to the prior question that was asked, what that audit found, we're speaking of far more than just 2 years to come to a resolution on a number of these cases. When it takes that long to come to a conclusion, then New Yorkers lose faith in their ability to actually report these kinds of discrimination to an institution like CCHR. So the imperative that we have as a city government is to follow through quicker, such that people actually learn that there is a reason they should trust city government, they should trust CCHR, and they should trust our new chair and our new commissioner.
Okay, more on topic. Julia, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What other issues other than housing do you find there are more violations of discrimination?
Yeah, I think we can see this across the board. This institution is charged with investigating allegations of discrimination on the basis of race, on the basis of religion, on the basis of sexual orientation, on the basis of a wide variety of factors that at one point or another are impeding New Yorkers' ability to afford to live life in this city. I do think housing is one of the most critical examples, however, because what we've seen is a lack of interest from prior administrations in the question of following through on fighting this kind of discrimination. And from within CCHR, we've seen timelines of more than 2 years to actually bring this to a halt. The important thing here is not just to resolve the cases in front of us, but to also make clear to all New Yorkers that we will not tolerate the violations of the law, whether it's housing or elsewhere.
See it in small business? I mean, you were mentioning small business. Is it more about red tape, or is it outright discrimination?
I think, so the New York City Human Rights Law, yeah, I'll do my best. Okay, so the New York City Human Rights Law covers a lot of stuff, and I think that it's not always obvious what the right thing to do is. So I do think there's a lot of public education that needs to be done, not only to people about their own individual rights, but about your responsibilities as an employer and a small business, or a landlord or what have you. And also in terms of the housing discrimination, I think it's important to talk about not only about discrimination in not renting to people because of their race or their gender identity, which we see a lot of, but also housing voucher discrimination, because what is the point of all of our amazing city subsidies for people if they can't find an apartment? So that's definitely one of our priorities going forward.
And sorry, just before you go, I would just add one thing to what the commissioner said, which is just to something that she shared in her own remarks. The intent of this position is not to find violations in small businesses across the city and then charge them for it. The intent of this position is to ensure compliance with the law. And that also means doing proactive outreach to small businesses such that they know what the rules are, as opposed to levying fine and fee upon fine and fee on them and then asking them to pay up.
We'll take off-topic questions too. Oh yeah, Hannah, go ahead.
On the two questions, if I may. First,
Sorry, Hannah, I can't quite hear you.
speak up. Two questions, if I may.
Yeah.
One is, I'll be starting up the session for the budget. What would you consider a win? What's the number that you think New York City needs to hit to, consider this a success in the first stage of your administration?
The governor said it herself the other day about the importance of partnership. And what I would consider a win is a demonstration of the partnership that has often been missing in the relationship between City Hall and Albany, and a meaningful advance of our affordability agenda. Because so often the question, even as we are gathered here today to speak about fighting discrimination, is considered separate from an economic crisis in the city, when in fact they are tied together. There are so many in Jackson Heights that will tell you that the affordability crisis is one that they feel no matter how they are interacting with whatever store it is around Diversity Plaza. And so that is going to be a key part of this, is how do we deliver on the affordability agenda in a meaningful way, and how do we build the partnership that has been missing? I know you said you had another question.
On Tia Weaver, your tenant protection appointee, obviously there's been some controversy. She said that homeownership is a weapon of white supremacy. Can you comment on if you share those beliefs, and if not, what can you say to reassure Black and brown New Yorkers who are homeowners who are concerned by those comments?
My focus as the mayor of New York City is to deliver stability in a city, and we know that one critical pathway to that stability is homeownership. And I am frankly so grateful to have so many of my former and now current coworkers at Chaya CDC, where I used to work as a foreclosure prevention housing counselor, where my job each and every day was to keep low to middle income homeowners in Queens in their homes. And just before me, ahead of me, would be someone who was working on first-time home buyer assistance. And the importance of all of these things tied together with the person behind me working on tenant protection. It was a fully comprehensive approach to the issue of housing, and I am committed to delivering that stability for homeowners, for tenants, and for those who aspire to be homeowners in this city. And I'm excited at the work that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryder. Yeah, go ahead.
John Powell's last night, the Attorney General released some videos of body camera footage of the shooting of Ches Frey, who was killed by police officers. I'm just wondering, have you seen that footage? And if you have, can I just get your reaction to the videos?
I have. It's incredibly heartbreaking to witness. And I know that the police department is commencing an investigation into this incident, and I look forward to seeing the results.
Sally, go ahead. Sorry, did you speak up just a little bit? Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted
Welcome back, Sally.
Thank you. Just to follow up on her question, you had two aides who had past social media posts kind of, dissected recently. One was fired, one was not. I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through the process, your process of like how you made those two decisions and what the difference is in your mind between the two of their criticizing tweets.
I accepted Kat DaCosta's resignation. Sia Weaver is someone that we hired to stand up for tenants across the city based on the track record that she had of standing up for tenants across the city and the state. And frankly, if we just look at the last few days of work that she has done as part of our larger city government approach to the housing crisis in the city, you can already see results the kind of which we haven't seen for the past few years.
Go ahead, right here. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Sorry.
Do you see the substance of their tweets when they're posted as like fundamentally different?
I think the core issue at hand here is, what are we hiring this person to do? We are hiring them to stand up for tenants in a way that we haven't seen before, and that's exactly what they're doing. Thank you.
My name is Javier Castaño from Queens Latino.
Hi, Javier. How are you?
My question is, what are your plans for the New York Office of Ethnic and Community Media? If you are going to meet with the owners and publishers, because we can play an important role in the engagement.
Yes, there's no question that you can play an important role in that engagement, and also that for so many of those New Yorkers who are here today with us, but also call Jackson Heights home, that it's those very kinds of institutions that are the ways in which they engage with the world around them. I can tell you that throughout the course of my mayoral campaign, there were many, many moments where I knew that the way I needed to reach a certain number of New Yorkers was by engaging exactly with publications of the kind that you're referring to. So this is going to be a focus for us as we continue to build out our communications department, is how to ensure that we are communicating in a way that is reaching every New Yorker, no matter what TV station they're turning on, what radio or what newspaper they're reading, that we will actually be speaking to them. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Mamdani. You've been spending a lot of time with Governor Hochul over the last week, and of course, the State of the State address is coming up next week. Is there anything you're really hoping she talks about next week, or any ideas you might be pushing her to talk about?
You know, I have appreciated the partnership that I've been building with Governor Hochul, and I've also appreciated the shared focus on affordability as something that we have to deliver for New Yorkers. And I know that for the governor, this is something that has existed prior to this mayoral campaign or this mayoral administration. And in her own words, that 2026 be the year of childcare, I think that many New Yorkers are looking forward to that, especially when we think about the costs that are pushing people out of this city. We know that 80% of families with children under the age of 5 cannot afford this city. We know that childcare has an average cost of $22,500 a year in this city. It is ridiculous. It is cheaper to send your child to CUNY than it is to find childcare for them. And that is a reflection of inaction that we've seen in this city and state. And I'm excited to be here now building a partnership with our governor to embark on a new era of politics here.
All right, we've got time for a few more. Yeah, Josie and then Greg.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Hey, Josie, how's it going?
I'm wondering, in light of Trump's attacks on child care funding in the state, if that at all affects your legislative priorities. Is today's the recession? Is child care now like on the top of that list? And I'm also wondering, in light of you calling Trump about Maduro, have you reached out to Trump about this? And where's the line for you on when you actually press call on Trump's contact with you?
Childcare continues to be a priority for myself and for our administration. And I think the decision that was made was a cruel decision that plays politics with children's futures here in New York City. And I appreciated what the governor shared yesterday, which was her confidence of being able to win this lawsuit in court. And we will continue not only to protect the funding that is being provided to New Yorkers across the city, but also to advance our agenda of universal childcare. Because what we know is that the absence of it is not just costing us in a moral sense, it's not just costing us in a political sense, it's also costing us in a fiscal sense, where we saw just a few years ago that for an annual period, we were losing about $23 billion in economic activity otherwise. So I will continue to make that clear, both in my advocacy in Albany, but also in the conversations that I have with anyone about what we need to deliver here in New York City.
And about outreach to Trump, why then, and presumably not now, childcare?
There will continue to be conversations that I have directly with President Trump, and they will always come back to the needs of New Yorkers and how to make this a city that they can afford. Childcare is one of those critical issues.
All right, go ahead, Greg.
So you spoke earlier about economic justice, very important, and I would contend that the ability of minority and women-owned businesses to get a piece of municipal contracts is very important. And you recently reappointed Michael Gardner. Are you aware of
Would you mind saying it a little bit louder?
Speak up just a little bit.
You recently reappointed Michael Gardner to that's his job. Were you aware of the MTA Inspector General's report about this unit cherry-picking data on contracts when he was at the MTA, which, by the way, you cited when making that?
Look, we expect excellence and accountability from everyone in our administration. That extends to every single portfolio. And this is a matter that you're raising right now that I'll be looking into more closely.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all. Sorry, man.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry, man. Sorry. I'm so sorry.